Welcome back to the channel. My name is Steven. I'm a pharmacist and I own 52 units of real estate. So I've kind of been reflecting on my entrepreneurial journey recently, and I talked about another video, but I grew up with very low self-esteem, and I kind of felt like I always had a chip on my shoulder, if that makes sense. And I kind of used that chip on my shoulder to drive myself to do better because I always wanted to prove people wrong, right? And this is a lot of like NFL players, NBA players. They always grew up with a chip on their shoulder and they always wanted to prove people wrong. They use that anger to fuel them to do better. And I felt like I kind of was the same way growing up, because I grew up with very low self-esteem. Nothing against like my parents or anything, but when you grow up in a Asian American, first generation immigrant household, your parents are working full time. Asians, they don't show love through like words of affirmation. Like they don't say, hey, you're doing great. They only know how to like criticize to make you do better, but it's with good intent, right? So this is very typical of an Asian American household or immigrant household where they want you to do better. They want you to do good in school. Like, the joke, A is average, B is below average, C is you can't come home, and D is don't talk to me ever, right? F is failure. That's kind of the joke. So if you get A's, you're just average, right? So my parents were, pretty hands off in terms of raising me, and that's how they were raised growing up. Like both my parents, in Vietnam, they had like 6-7 siblings, and the grandparents would like be working, and usually you had like a nanny raise you, or your older sister would raise you. Depending if you're rich, then you had a nanny raising you. If you're poor, you had your older sisters raising you. So that was kind of how my parents were raised. Like my dad was raised by his oldest sister, and my mom, they were richer, so they were raised by nannies, right? So when they come here, they don't know how to like raise the kids, and they're focused on like making money. And it's hard, right? You come to America with zero. You went from rags to rich, or you went from riches to rags. You had a house in Vietnam, and you come to Vietnam, you don't speak the language, you don't know people, you're trying to make money, you're trying to survive, right? So I'm sure that's a lot of stress, and had I went through that myself, I probably would be the same way, right? But anyways, my parents would give me the basic necessities. So they gave me food, they gave me a roof over my head. If I wanted something, they would buy it within reason. So like in their minds, my life was a lot easier than their life, and I completely agree, right? Like my life was probably way easier than their life. I didn't have to worry about money, I didn't have to worry about food, I didn't have to worry about shelter, but they didn't have the time or capacity or wherewithal to focus on the emotional side of things, right? But anyways, so because of that, I think I grew up with very low self-esteem. Or I just had very low self-esteem to begin with because I was always the smallest in my class, the shortest, didn't think I was that great, thought I was stupid. So I kind of used that to feel myself, right? Like I remember in elementary school, there's a GATE program, which is the more advanced kids. I always wanted to get in that, but every time I got rejected, it would motivate me like, I want to try harder. I need to read more. I need to study more. I need to do better, right? So I kind of always had that mindset. So I remember I would like study more, get better, and eventually in middle school I was able to take the more advanced classes. In high school I was able to take all the AP classes, and got into a 5-year pharmacy program, which not many people get into. Finished the 5-year program in 2 years, or actually complete the 5-year program. Like only like out of 50 people that started the program, only like 10 people actually finished the 5-year program in 5 years. A lot of people dropped out or went to a 6-year or 7-year program. So I always like pushed myself, right? And then I became a pharmacist. I got fired as my first pharmacist job. I got laid off as a pharmacist. And I used that like feel and anger to like do better, right? Like I was like, you know what? I want to prove you wrong. I remember like a girl would ask me out. I would ask out a girl in like high school, and then they would reject me. And then I would like, you know what? I want to better myself so that you will regret rejecting me. That was always my mentality, right? And it might have come from low self-esteem, trying to get an ego or bolster up my ego, whatever that is. I remember just thinking that. I remember I got rejected from a girl that I liked on the tennis team, and I was just like, wow, like I want to prove you wrong. I want to make you regret rejecting me later because I want to be a better man, a better person, and I want you to regret rejecting me. That was my mentality that I always had, right? So because of that, I remember I got rejected, so I was like, you know what? I'm going to become so smart. I'm going to become so successful. I'm going to start working out, get buffer, be better, and you're going to regret turning me down. Right? Like I kind of want to be that, like, you go to that 10-year high school reunion and people don't even recognize me because I'm like buffer now, smarter, better in every single way, successful, right? That was my feel, right? It stemmed from low self-esteem and ego probably, right? And so I used that to fuel myself, right? Like I became a pharmacist. Like I remember in farm school, I remember like in high school and then first 2 years of college, I was getting rejected by girls. And then like in 20, I remember I was like, I'm going to work out, get buff. I want to bench heavy, right? Because I was always like weak, and that's what got me into powerlifting. And eventually I could bench like 225 at one point, believe it or not, weighing 130. I could deadlift like 360, weighing like 130, and I could like squat like 225, weighing 130. And today I don't do that because it's injury prone, right? Especially at my age now. I'm more for longevity, but I can still lift pretty decently heavy because of that foundation I built. But I remember I got buff, and I remember I got more confident, and I might have went the other way where I got overly confident because now I could get girls. I was more successful, and I knew I had more confidence, more self-esteem, right? But anyways, I was using that anger to always feel myself to get better. Like in the beginning, it was like proving girls wrong. Like, hey, like you're gonna regret rejecting me, right? So I got better, I got smarter, I started working out, started playing guitar, getting music, right? And then in farm school, I kind of used that all the way to like 23. But at 23, I got fired from Walgreens, right? And I used that to be like, you know what? Screw you, Walgreens. I'm gonna prove you wrong, right? I'm gonna go to the hospital, which is a better setting, anyways, for pharmacists, and I'm gonna become a pharmacy director to prove that I'm a better leader than my manager was at Walgreens and the regional director was at Walgreens, right? So I just said, you know what? They're not strong leaders. I'm going to do the complete opposite of how they led to prove that I can do better and that my method of leadership and leading people is better, right? So for them, they ruled with fear. They ruled with creating a toxic environment. And I want to rule with empathy. I want to rule with making my employees better. Like I want to elevate my employees instead of putting them down. And I want to create an environment that's not toxic, that's conducive for learning, that's conducive for patient care, and conducive for just people being happy, right? So I want to do the complete opposite, and I've taken that, and I have been successful with that, right? Like, to this day, I've been in leadership positions for 7 years, and it's way better to lead that way versus to lead with fear, right? So I did the complete opposite, and I was able to prove them wrong. I remember when I got my director job at 27, I was like, you know what? I got my first hospital job after getting fired in King City, worked there for a year and a half, got a hospital job at Santa Clara Valley Medical Center, which was an amazing job, right? Paid me well, way more than Walgreens. I learned a lot, and I remember I was like, you know what? But I want more than this. I pursued a master's in public health degree once I got that job at Santa Clara Valley, and after 2.5 years, once I finished that, I got my first director job at Kindred Hospital. And I remember when I got that job, I was like, I bought myself an Omega watch to celebrate that, which was a 1990s Omega because that was the year that I was born. And I just remember like talking to my mom and like my dad, like, yeah, I finally made it. I finally proved Walgreens wrong. And then once that chip was off my shoulder, I moved. My next chip was, well, people don't respect me because I'm working in a small hospital that no one recognizes. So I want to work for a bigger hospital, right? And fast forward to today, I do now work at a bigger hospital, right? With the name, the clout, and all that. So, for me, I always just kept on moving, making the chip different, right? In the beginning, it was proving girls wrong. The next thing was proving Walgreens wrong. And after that, it was proving those wrong who rejected me at bigger hospitals thinking I can't do it, right? So I always had to prove someone wrong for some reason, right? And that took me all the way up to like, I want to say 32 or 33, I want to say. So not that recent. But then like once I became a director, I was like, I want to prove that wrong. And then once I got laid off, I was like, I want to prove pharmacy wrong. Like I want to retire from pharmacy early by 35. I remember at 30, I said, I want to retire at 35 years old from pharmacy with $20,000 a month in positive cash flow, right? So because of that, wanting to prove wrong, I joined a real estate mentorship after getting laid off or before getting laid off, or around that window. I think I got laid off in February. I joined the mentorship in early February. I joined the mentorship early February. I got laid off end of February. And I remember thinking like, wow, I want to prove pharmacy wrong. Like I don't need my pharmacy job anymore, right? So then I bought 80 units. I bought my 26 unit. I bought my mobile home park instead of the 50 unit complex in Enid, Oklahoma, which I have another video talking about that, right? It's actually back on the market and I want to make an offer on it, ideally. And what else? And I bought my 20 unit in Enid, right? So I bought 80 units of real estate, 8 months. I opened up my own pharmacy. I opened up an Amazon drop shipping store. Fast forward today, lost money in the mobile home park. My 26 units doing great. My 20 units doing okay. My Amazon drop shipping store, I closed down for a loss. My pharmacy, I exited the partnership for a loss. Got very humbled, right, in the process. And I think at that point, I hit rock bottom in 2023 because it was like really stressful, not what I wanted. And I think at that point, in 2023, I kind of lost my chip on my shoulder, right? Like I kind of didn't have that anger to keep me as ambitious, to improve myself, right? Because I kind of like got over those demons, for lack of a better word. Like I don't have low self-esteem anymore, right? I don't feel like I need to prove anything anymore, because I feel like I've done everything that I set myself out to do, right? Like you said, if you were to tell me at 23, back when I was like fired and angry, that like I would, in like 11 years or 12 years, I would own 52 units of real estate, that'd be worth $6 million, that I would be working at a big hospital, making good money, I wouldn't believe it, right? So, that anger, I don't hate it, right? Thanks to that anger, it got me to where I am today. It got me to 52 units. It got me to $6.2 million net worth. It got me to a high income W2, right? And I learned a lot. I grew a lot from this journey. But I think at 33, part of me burning out was because I'm like, wow, I don't have that anger anymore, right? I don't have that chip on my shoulder. So what's my new motivation to like wanting to build wealth, to wanting to pursue financial freedom? Because I didn't have that anger anymore, right? Like I felt like in my W2 pharmacy, I have nothing left to prove, like, to be honest. Like I've worked in every setting possible. I worked at multiple hospitals. I've interviewed at many hospitals, and like each W2 job, like whether it's a big hospital where I'm at now or it's a small hospital, there's pros and cons, right? Pros of a small hospital is it's less political, less staff to deal with, less complexity to the hospital, right? It's simpler, smaller staff, but it'll pay less. Versus if you work at a bigger hospital, there's more politics, more people to deal with, more complexity because they offer more services. Like there's clinics, there's like transplant, there's like all these clinics associated with that. So it's just more complicated, and you get paid like maybe like $40,000, $50,000 more, but it comes at more stress, right? Because maybe it's not as well run. So there's pros and cons, right? Like I've experienced all the above, and probably at this point, maybe I do want to end up in like a smaller hospital that's easier to manage, pays gonna be less, but it's simpler operations, right? And less headache. So, I've been through all of it. Nothing less to prove, right? I've worked at a big hospital. People can't say like, oh, you never worked at a big hospital. I did, right? And like I've experienced it, and it's not my cup of tea, right? Or maybe a season when I have kids where it may not be my cup of tea, right? So I don't have anything left to prove in pharmacy. In terms of real estate, I have nothing left to prove as well. Like I've got to 90 units without partners myself, built up a $6 million net worth, and there's no question or doubt that like I'm a real estate investor, and like a higher end one because I was able to own 52 units myself, right? So even and then I don't like owning more units isn't going to make me any happier. I just like financially, right? Or maybe right now it will, but like eventually I hit the point where like, yeah, if you own another like apartment, it's not going to make you much more happier, right? Once you hit a certain point, right? And I kind of hit that point already where I don't even need to buy right now. Like, but I still want to buy because, I like owning real estate, and it's really enjoyable for me to actually own real estate and to manage it right now, at least. But maybe I hit a point where I don't want to deal with it. And at that point I would sell it, right? And then, pay capital gains tax, pay depreciation recapture on that. So, I may hit that point too. But like right now I have nothing left to prove in real estate. So because of that, I don't want to rush into buying okay deals. I just want to buy great deals only because I can afford to sit there, wait, and be patient, right? I don't have to like rush myself. I can afford to be patient. I can afford to take my time. I can afford to really underwrite deals. I can afford to be very selective on which deals that I offer on because I'm in no rush, right? I'm in no rush, right? I can buy more single family homes in Huntsville, Alabama. I can buy more apartments in Oklahoma slowly over time. I'm still young. I'm 34 years old, almost 35, right? So why rush? I just need to buy one good apartment complex every like 3 to 4 years, and that's good enough, right? If I buy 50 unit, I'm good for the next 3 years, right? Like I need to stabilize that and then reassess in 3 years. Do I want to buy more? Do I want to buy another apartment, or am I okay just staying as is, right? So like really, nothing left to prove in real estate, right? Like I know when I'm ready, I can buy another apartment complex in Oklahoma. I know when I'm ready, I can buy another new build construction in Huntsville, Alabama. So it's very freeing knowing that. Like I have nothing left to prove, and I know that when the time comes and when I'm serious about buying and looking, I know I can get a deal within like 6 to 12 months, probably, right? 12 months at most. I could probably find a deal. Or if it takes longer, then so what? Like I'm in no rush either, right? Like if I can find one great deal, it's a home run. That's all you need. Like my 26 unit, it's such a home run deal. You just need one of these deals, right? And this is my killer deal, right? So like if I'm sick of my 20 unit, I can sell that, take the money, and then pay off my 26 unit, and I own it free and clear, right? So that's just kind of the mentality I'm having right now. I have nothing left to prove. Like I don't need to chase 100 units or 1,000 units. Like I don't need to prove that, right? So for me, it's kind of interesting where my up to 33, my motivation was to prove people wrong, right? I wanted to prove girls wrong. That's why I bettered myself. Then after that became, I wanted to prove Walgreens wrong. That's why I climbed to be a pharmacy director. After that, after getting laid off, I wanted to prove pharmacy profession wrong. That's why I went to real estate. After that, I wanted to prove my parents wrong because they didn't like real estate. I want to prove my fiance wrong at one point because she didn't really believe in real estate, right? So that fueled me to buy more real estate. But now I hit the point where I'm like, well, I don't need to prove anything anymore, right? Like I own 52 units. My fiance seen me do it. She's okay with it. Nothing else to prove. I don't really have a chip on my shoulder anymore, right? So like now, what's my motivation? My motivation to do stuff now is just purely based off like, do I just want to do it or not, right? Like, does this actually make me happy? Am I excited about this? Does it give me energy? Then I'll continue to buy real estate. So real estate right now does give me energy. It does pump me up, right? It does give me energy. I love to do it, right? I get excited about it. So I'll do that, but I might hit a point where, like I said, it doesn't get me excited anymore. At that point, maybe I'll stop buying or maybe I'll sell, right? And the same with like social media. Like I never did social media with the intent of like trying to prove people wrong, right? Like, yes, I've been told that like you need to edit your videos. You got to do this, you got to do this. And I still refuse to edit my videos, right? Because I want to give you raw content that's organic, that's straight from the heart, right? I don't script. I don't practice. I just think of a topic and I go on my rants for 20 minutes, right? And just share my experience, share my perspective, unfiltered, right? I think long term, this is going to be better than all these edited videos. I may be wrong, but I don't care, right? I don't care to be that big. I just want to share my journey. It's therapeutic for me. So when I went to social media, I never came in with the mindset of like proving people wrong. For me, I just want to be consistent, share my journey, and whatever happens, happens, right? So it's kind of freeing to come from a place where I'm not fueled by anything besides just what I want to do. And right now I like to create content. I like to share my journey. I like to buy real estate, right? And then my W-2 job, eventually, I know that's going to end. And once my other businesses pick up, but it's like no rush, right? Like you said, I'm no rush. But if there's a good deal comes around, like my 50 unit, then, of course I will like want to buy real estate and all that. So if a 50 unit comes and it's a good deal, then I'll buy it, right? If it's not a good deal, then I move on. Like I just make an offer that makes sense for me. And if they're not willing to work with me, then I move on, right? Like, or I'll just follow up in a week or so. So, it's very freeing kind of coming from that place, right? Where like, nothing else to prove. Like I have a house, I have a nice house. I'm going to have a beautiful wife, going to have, hopefully a healthy family, and nothing really else to prove. Right? Like I don't care for people's opinions. I don't care for people's validation now. All I care about is how I feel and am I happy? Am I healthy? And that's it, right? So it's freeing in a weird way. So like it's very interesting how like for 10 years I was using, or for most of my life up to 33, I was using anger or a chip on my shoulder to feel. But then once you kind of get past that point, nothing else to prove, like you have to find your new motivation. So anyways, hopefully you found some nuggets from this video. Let me know what questions you have. Comments, questions, love to answer them. Let me know if you are interested in my mentorship program, one-on-one coaching. Have that link down below. Otherwise, please like, comment, subscribe, and hope to see you in the next one. Thank you so much.